All right, so now we're talking about analyzing email data. So you want to test and pay attention to subject lines. A lot of email platforms allow you to do A/B testing. So I actually just did this for the last, we send a monthly email from Jen out, and we did this the last time. And it was funny that they were almost exactly the same. Like both of the subject lines had the same percentage of people opening them. So if you're not sure, if you have a couple of different ideas, you can try doing a subject line with a question, and then try doing a subject line with a statement and seeing which one performs better. You can also do A/B testing on social media, right? So you can, Stephanie, you can try adding call to action in one and then not the other, and then seeing like which one performs better, or if there's some sort of difference in like how those play out. You can also test and pay attention to send times. So one thing that it depends on the type of email we send, but for Jen's letters, I love to send those on Friday afternoons, early afternoon, because that's usually when people are like not wanting to start a big project. They might have a little bit of gaps between different things. And so they're much more likely to like, oh, I got this letter, let me read it. Right. So it's a little more relaxed of a time on Friday afternoons usually for people. And so they're just more likely to read a letter. And there's a lot of data that supports that. I think the other time, I want to say it's a Tuesday. I'm trying to remember. I've read a bunch of different reports on like when's the best time to send your emails. But we stick with Friday afternoons for those letters. And then you want to test and pay attention to frequency. I know a lot of our programs send out newsletters, right? So are you sending a newsletter monthly, quarterly? And maybe you've been trying to do monthly and it's been a little much. So try out quarterly and see if that gets better response, or if you have more content to put in it, right? So thinking about the frequency, and don't be afraid to try a couple different things. I think consistency is key. So once you find that good rhythm for you and that people are responding to, just stick with that, right? And build that consistency for that frequency. And then you want to adjust your content based on subscriber behavior. So are you going to do a Raise the Dead campaign and like focus on resending content to non-openers? Do you want to segment, or are you segmenting your audience for targeted messaging? And so segmenting, if you, I do like an email training, so some of our network has participated in that. And if you haven't participated in that, I encourage everyone watching to sign up for it, because we talk a lot about targeted segmenting and targeting your audience and how to do that effectively. But a really great example, and something a lot of people are probably already doing, would be to donors, right? So like a lot of times we segment the type of messaging for our donors based on the level of giving they've given, or if they've lapsed in the last year, right? So you'll do a different variation of the same message, but you'll change some of the language based on that giving pattern, right? And so it's the same type of thing for engagement. So like if someone is opening our newsletters every time, then you know they're interested, you want to keep sending it to them. But if someone stops opening them, there's that fine line between like unsubscribe, like when you want to like cultivate that community, so you're okay with the unsubscribe, and then there's another, like that other side, it's like, oh well, maybe there's something one day, like an event or a letter, or there's another type of communication that would click with that person, and maybe this just isn't that type of communication, right? And so being sensitive to like when someone's still your subscriber, they're not unsubscribing, but maybe they're just not engaging with certain types of content. All right, so tracking and organizing data. So why tracking matters. So we can look at all these numbers, right? And like in the moment, maybe make some like connections. But what I think is most helpful is to look at the changes and to compare month over month, and to see like how things are adapting, or different contents getting different resonation based on certain time, resonating differently based on the times. So to me, tracking is key to making all of this make sense. So, and it helps refine the strategy, and then measure successes too. So you can celebrate improvements, and it's reflected through that. So the first thing I'll say is to create a tracking system. So you can use a spreadsheet to log key metrics like the reach and engagement, the click-through rate, all of those things, right? And you can include the date, platform, content type, topic, and performance indicators that you want to track. And then establish your routine. I know this is just some things I see. I see a lot of people do weekly for social media engagement trends, monthly for overall performance review, and quarterly for that deeper insight. I mostly just do monthly and quarterly. I don't do a weekly thing. I'll do a content analysis monthly, and then quarterly will be everything. So quarterly has email, it has like Google Analytics on our website. So I do much bigger picture quarterly for what's happening with our engagement. So I'm going to share January's content report. I just made it this morning, so this is the first look at it. But just to give you an idea of what I do, what I'm doing when I do the content report. So the first thing I like to just start with this, in case someone's looking at this like from our board or somebody that may not be as familiar with our content pillars. So I have our values here, our content pillars: to educate, advocate, collaborate, celebrate. And our audience goals are to reach, engage, inform, and convert. And so then I have here our social media audience. So I just break it down based on what they show us with audience, which would be the age, location, and then our gender breakdown. And of course, our total followers are here. And then I look at some of this content. So what are the top performing posts on Facebook for January? And so I include the image, the caption, reach, and engagement. So we see that this one was a picture from our new volunteer supervisor training, and I didn't include the entire caption, but I tagged every single program that participated. And so that got a lot of reshares and a lot of traction. And because of that, our reach went up a lot. And then Lori had a milestone work anniversary this year. She reached 24 years with Georgia CASA. So we did a post celebrating that, and that got a lot of reach and engagement as well. And then lastly, we reshared a post from one of our affiliate programs about an adoption in Gilmer County. And so that one also got a lot of reach and engagement. So I just like to show the top 3 every month. And then here, I just look at some trends, like what are some of the things that these posts have in common? These were all of our top 6 posts here. So we see that they're personal. We're celebrating our team. We're showing some local love to our local programs here. Here's another local program here. Oftentimes we see either like a swear-ins or volunteer. Those courtroom scenes do really well. Family, people love to see families, whether it be a reunification or adoption, as in this case, or sometimes we share like families from like someone from our team or an affiliate member or something like that. Like we had a swear-in last month of a guy swearing in. He had his wife and son with him, and that one got a lot of traction. And then smiles. We see a lot of like those close-ups, and those smiling faces do really well. Okay, for Instagram, looking at the same metrics here. And then our top performing posts were very different. We do have one in common. It's this reshare from Appalachian CASA is also in our top 3, but these 2 were videos. And so we have a reel of a former foster youth sharing a little bit of her story and talking about her volunteers. That did really well. And then we also launched a day in the life as a new initiative. And we started with our executive director, Jen. We did a day in the life, like behind the scenes of what it's like for her as the executive director. And so that got a lot of engagement as well. And then the trends are very similar to the trends we see on Facebook. We do see that videos obviously do a lot better. On Instagram, the platform is a little more designed to be video friendly. And then lastly, for LinkedIn, to look at the top content here, these were some of our top content. I didn't do all the same content on LinkedIn, so it's not identical in the way that Facebook and Instagram are the same. But we see that our Coffee with CASA post did really well. This one was a blog. It was our Purposeful Perspectives blog from one of our team members, Allie, that did really well. And then this is the swear-in picture I mentioned. The swear-in picture did really well. And so these are some of the trends here. And so just a quick overview, we see that we have the greatest male audience on LinkedIn. Atlanta follows our followers lead on all platforms. Our largest age ranges are middle-aged here. Our reels are performing very well on Instagram, and then the personalized content that shows our team, some of our affiliates, all of that leads all of our engagement on every platform. Okay, so now we have all this data, right? So you're tracking it, you're looking at it, you're keeping in touch with what's happening, what's changing, and now what do you do, right? How does this inform your content strategy? How does it inform what you do next? So hopefully when you're gathering and comparing some of this stuff, it helps you decide what to post more of or less of, right? So as we saw from this content report, that people love to engage with our team members. They love to see those videos behind the scenes. They love to hear those success stories from our affiliate programs. And so those are things that we know we need to post more of, right? Those are the things we want to lean into. I haven't done a ton recently, but like, let's say hypothetically, I did like volunteer features. And maybe right now those just aren't connecting, right? So maybe I know like, okay, well, for the next month, I'm going to really lean into these things that I know are working, and I'll hold on to some of these volunteer features and try them again in March. Or I'll try incorporating one or two, or maybe I need to revisit how I'm doing that. Maybe instead of writing them in third person, why don't I try redoing them in first person? Or maybe I'm making those captions too big. Or maybe instead of a picture, I could do a video next time, try a video with that volunteer and see how that does, right? So just because something's not working, you don't want to necessarily scrap it completely, but take a chance to say, okay, what can I do to improve this? How can I take things that are working from these other posts and apply them to these posts that aren't working so well? And play around with those and try a couple things. And if you're tracking and paying attention, then you'll hopefully begin to find a way to make that content work as well as some of these other things. And so then think about creating content themes based on the data. So let's say I was doing a bunch of posts on like tips on how to be the best CASA volunteer, right? And let's say those were going really well. So leaning into some of those themes that we know are resonating with people. Storytelling is always going to hit. So if you're doing some storytelling and it isn't, it might just be the way you're doing it that you need to think about. And then calls to actions like we talked about before. And just a quick note here, if you are doing calls to action, be mindful of how you're putting, if there's a link involved, be mindful of the platform and what their link, what's best for those links, right? So for our Instagram, you want to put that link in the bio or get a link tree. You don't want to put it in the caption. So the call to action is visit the link in our bio, right? So that's the call to action. You want to make sure people know where that link is at. Or you could do it on your story. So you could have the post and then reshare it on your story, and you can put a link in your story, right? So then that would be how you would want to link it. So just be cognizant of when you're doing links and calls to action, just be cognizant of the platform and what's the best thing to do there. And then lastly, aligning your email and social media content for consistency. So Lori sends out a great quarterly newsletter. And so one thing that I'm always trying to do more of and do better at is pulling some of that great content that she has in this newsletter and pulling those and putting them on social media and breaking them out into smaller pieces that fit those social media platforms better.